Hello, you're in the field with Neil. You know, most of us get into the science and ecology field because we're nerds about something, about birds, about plants, and we love what we do so much that we want to do it every single day for work. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Luckily, we are about to go nerd out with Dr. Jen Karberg, our research program supervisor, talk about one of her favorite things to do, which is get in a bog and talk about carnivorous plants. Stay tuned.
Whoa.
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Jen. It's a little treacherous getting out here. We are quaking up a storm.
Welcome to a quaking bog.
Oh,
Isn't it fabulous?
It's beautiful out here. Holy heck.
It is spectacular out here. So this is, I know on Nantucket we talk about our cranberry bogs a lot, but this, as someone who worked in peat bogs and northern peat bogs, this is what I think a bog is. So this is a really cool place. There's only a few of these on Nantucket, really sensitive areas, but they're organic peat wetlands that develop in kettle ponds. So we're sitting in like a low depression that was left by the glacier, and the bottom of this is most likely lined with clay soil. So even if we're close to the groundwater table, the water can't get in here. Neil pointed out the fact that we don't seem quite so stable out here, and that's because we are essentially standing on a mat of soil that's built from plants that don't decay very fast because we're acidic and wet out here, and that mat accumulates over time, and it actually is sitting over all of that rainwater that's collected from precipitation. So we're not really on solid ground, even though we're not sinking down to the water below. So we are on floating soil.
And we're squishing up a storm. Holy heck.
And I was telling Neil, so I'm a wetland ecologist for those of you that know me, but when I was in college, I thought I wanted to work in computers. And I spent all day in a computer lab. And then I took a botany class just for fun. And we walked out onto a bog, and I did this, and I met some carnivorous plants, which we'll show you in a minute. And I said, well, I know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And it's work in these places. And it completely changed my trajectory.
That's the story. But as I was saying, this is why we do this. This is why we get into
something clicks and something resonates. And places like this are just so special. How could I not want to work to protect them and study them and understand them?
And looking at the smile on your face, this massive smile being here, you wouldn't be anywhere else right now.
Nowhere else. Nowhere else. So like I said, because it's only rainwater that feeds this wetland, there's not a lot of nutrients. The soil is just like decomposing plant material, so there's not a lot of mineral soil to bring in nutrients to the plants. And it's really acidic. So there's really, really rare plants that have developed to live here. And I mean, the coolest one, obviously, are the plants that are carnivorous plants. They're plants that eat insects in order to get the nutrients that they need to grow, which is wild. It's like they're not quite wildlife, they're not quite plants. They exist kind of in the middle ground.
That's so cool.
And we have them here on Nantucket. And the coolest one, the one that I studied for my graduate work, is the pitcher plant, which is out here, and you can kind of see all of the red flowers of the pitcher plant growing in front of you out here.
Whoa. So they come up on these stalks. They look, kind of like sunflowers a little bit, with these like big bold faces and these petals that come out from all directions.
Yeah, so let's try, we're gonna try and get over to one.
Okay.
To show you what it looks like.
Quake on over. Whoop.
Neil and I don't want to stand in the same place because we don't want to punch through here.
Oh yeah.
So it's a little tricky.
Well, I already got water in the boot. We're already getting wet.
Right, I'm gonna get up onto this mound over here so you can see it. Oh, here we got a nice big patch of pitcher plants and the flowers. So flower first is just super cool. This is the flower of the pitcher plant here, big, red. Each plant sends up like 2 to 3 petals, or 2 to 3 flowers each season. And they only hold their actual flower petals for about 2 weeks or so.
Okay.
Right about now. So the cool thing about it is how the flower has adapted. So Pitcher plants are bee pollinated, so they're adapted specifically to attract bees. And the bees are attracted to these showy, floppy petals. And they fly in. And underneath this cap here is where all the pollen is hanging out, right there.
Oh, wow.
Down at the base.
Yeah, you can see that, all that little bunch of yellow.
Absolutely. So they get that pollen, but when they go out, this petal is blocking their way, and they get confused. So they'll actually fly out over this little guy right here, this little piece that's sticking up. And that's actually where the stigma is. That's where the plant needs the pollen to be deposited in order to form seeds that will form down here. So they go in and they get pollen on their chest, and as they back out, they usually deposit pollen, maybe from this plant, maybe from one of the other many plants that they visited. And so it guarantees that this plant gets a seed to develop. So in about a month or two, this big structure will fall off, and the seed head will swell and then pop off. And they can float, which is great because we're in a wetland. So they can float, they can move around, they can get to a different place in the bog to grow. Pitcher plants actually grow. So like this big one here is a great example. They've got a center spot and they grow pitchers. They grow 2 to 3 pitchers every year, and they grow them in a whirl. And they just keep growing, and they hold on to the old pitchers for quite a number of years. And you can actually count them to figure out how old a plant is.
Wow.
So however many pitchers, take that in half, and that about correlates to how old a plant is. And I've actually found some that are about 30 years old.
Whoa.
Yep. So they'll just keep growing and just keep growing pitchers. And the pitchers, okay, so this is why it's a carnivorous plant, right? This pitcher is actually the leaf of the plant. So the leaf of the plant was adapted to be a cup. That's why we call it the pitcher plant. It holds water.
You can see it
in
sitting
here.
right there.
Yeah. And see all these veins?
Yep.
These actually glow in the dark to particular insects that can see at the right wavelength.
Oh my God.
It attracts things in. They go in, and there's actually, I should also say, around this lip here, there's sweet smelling sugar. Insects are attracted to this leaf. So they'll go to it, they'll climb in, see what's going on, they'll fall down into the pitcher, and they get trapped in there. The inside is nice and smooth. It's hard to climb out. If they're flying insects, there's water in there and their wings get wet.
So bright colors, sweet sugars, and kind of a trap. This is basically the McDonald's.
It's a trap. It's a insects, please come here so I can eat you. And there are all different kinds of carnivorous plants out there. Some species of pitcher plants actually secrete digestive stomach enzymes into the pitcher to break those insects down, and then they absorb the nutrients through the pitcher wall. This pitcher plant, which is actually the northern pitcher plant, largest distribution of any of the carnivorous plants, it doesn't make its own digestive enzymes, but there's like a whole community of microbes that live in these pitchers that help break down any insect that gets trapped in there. The microbes get the nutrients they need, and then the extra nutrients all go to the plant itself.
Very classic symbiotic relationship right there.
Extremely smart building connections between the plants. It's an extremely smart relationship.
Super cool.
And then you'll see, like here's a brand new pitcher leaf. It hasn't opened yet. And you'll notice that some of them are a little redder, some of them are a little greener. They'll actually change the pigment, and the leaves will have more green in them when they're brand new or when they're shaded, so that they devote more energy to photosynthesis instead of capturing insects. So they can actually do a trade-off based on how much sunlight they're getting, how much photosynthesis they can do versus how much energy they're going to put towards capturing insects.
God, plants, how do they figure this stuff out?
I don't know. They're super smart. Adaptation, evolution, who survives, who doesn't.
Yeah, so all the more reason to protect these habitats, because these plants have been adapting and trying out these mechanisms for survival in harsh conditions.
Absolutely. And they're isolated ecosystems. They're in those kettle hole depressions. It's easy for them to get lost in a landscape and overdeveloped. And like we said, the soil that we're standing on is not very stable. It takes a really long time to build up peat soils like this. You get an inch of peat soil, takes about 100 years to build.
Whoa.
So any impact in here is going to last for quite a long time and really be bad for the plant species that are living in here.
Well, we're glad that we're protecting such amazing, diverse habitat out here. And there's so much to see. There's cranberry flowers in here.
Original cranberries here. Here's some really good flowers right over in here. Yeah, that's the cranberry. Loves living in these acidic environments.
And so the cranberries that we see out at Milestone Cranberry Bogs, those are obviously cultivated strains.
Yep.
But is it the same species, Vexinium macrocarpon?
Same species. This is what we evolved, kind of built our cultivated cranberry out of, is what you find in these bogs.
Got it. Whoa, stepping into it. Oh man, this is so freaking cool. All right, so you got some sundews for us?
I have some sundews. So we talked about pitcher plants, which are carnivorous plants, and there are other kinds. It's not the only one. Carnivory in plants has evolved multiple times and on many different continents around the world as a response to low nutrients. So Drosera are teeny tiny. You're gonna have to come close to see them.
Yep, I'm gonna get a little bit closer.
Right down in here, you can see this red plant that looks like it has a bunch of water droplets kind of on stalks all over it, which essentially is what it is. So these water droplets are, again, really sweet, nectary. When insects crawl over it or they're attracted to it and they hit it and land on this kind of spatula piece to it, it will curl up. It responds by curling up around that insect, and then those digestive enzymes get secreted, and that insect gets digested. It takes a couple days, but that insect gets digested and the nutrients are absorbed into the plant.
That's so wild.
I've definitely seen ants, a lot of beetles crawl into the Drosera.
And I've noticed as we're walking along, there's a fair amount of spiders and lots of invertebrates that live in these bog systems.
Tons. They're actually fairly diverse for being so nutrient poor. But there's a lot of things that come and use it. And there's a lot of things that have realized that these pitcher plants trap insects and prey. And I've actually seen birds poke holes in the sides of the pitchers in order to go in and eat the insects that they know are in there already.
You're kidding me.
No, they've realized that there's free meals in there if they can get to it in time before the plant digests it.
Nature is just it's the coolest thing.
It's the coolest thing. It's the coolest thing.
So this is an absolutely gorgeous place.
Yep.
And I'm so happy that we can go visit it and you can come talk about something that changed your life.
Thanks for joining me out here. We can't bring walks out here because as you can see,
it's a little hazardous. It's
just too sensitive. And I wouldn't even come out here more than once a year, honestly, to find these plants. But at least we can bring it through video and we can show what a cool place we have here in the middle of Nantucket that probably nobody even knew existed.
Exactly. Man. This is just a beautiful island, and we are very happy to show you a little bit more about it than you would normally see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jen, so much.
Of course, Neil.